Alright guys, welcome back to Nerdologist Gaming again. This is episode 3 of Let's Play Crash, the original game. I have Dylan here with me again.
Hey guys, again.
So,
I'm gonna try not to die as much this time.
yeah, I kind of want to go back to like the first episode when we were talking about...
the original trilogy.
Yeah, the original Naughty Dog trilogy. And, we just kind of skimmed it a little bit. We didn't really talk too much about it, but it's pretty interesting, I think. So,
yeah, it's a really interesting background story of a company who's now, a AAA game developer now, right?
Yeah, definitely. With Uncharted, The Last of Us.
I mean, Last of Us 2 is coming out?
Yeah, that comes out, if I'm not mistaken, either this year or early next year. I'm not too sure on that. It doesn't even have a release date. But I think first I want to mention that Crash wasn't really always Crash. Before he became Crash Bandicoot, he was actually Willy the Wombat.
I was gonna say, you mean Willy the Wombat?
I mean Willy the Wombat.
What a creative name.
Yeah, he actually looked exactly the same. He was literally just Willy the Wombat.
Yeah. It's like if you would have changed Bugs Bunny's name to... that's a bad example.
Like Baxter Beauregard or something
yeah,
like that.
something like that. But kept the same...
Yeah.
Like, character design, you'd be like, that's Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
You know, obviously they went with Crash Bandicoot, which called attention to a lesser-known marsupial of the Australias. So that in itself is really interesting. Everybody knows a wombat. Plus, back in, 96 when this came up?
Yeah, development started, I think, in 94 when they first started using the PlayStation console to develop it.
Yeah.
The game wasn't released until... Well, it wasn't announced, I think, until 1996 at E3. And then it released that same year, if I'm not mistaken.
I can't ever be too sure on that information just because you're that guy, you know? But, no, from my research into the game and stuff like that, if they would have went with Willy the Wombat, there's already a cartoon character named Willy the Wombat, so, like, good luck Naughty Dog, the fledgling first-party Sony developer, trying to get a court with whatever company owned the rights to Willy the Wombat. There probably would be no Naughty Dog as there is today. Or there would be no Crash.
And ironically, he literally got his name
From crashing through boxes.
Yeah.
Sorry, I stole your thunder there, but
no, that's it. You're good.
That's one of there's, I think Channel Frederator does 107 facts about Crash Bandicoot, about any game, and it's just really interesting. If you guys haven't ever heard of that, check it out. It's a bigger channel, obviously. Frederator, they actually make cartoons and stuff on Nickelodeon. But some of the stuff is really interesting. It gives you a lot of background on stuff that you may or may not know about.
But I think... Oh, and I don't know if you knew this, but Naughty Dog wasn't really always a Sony company. So...
they were more of a PC gaming originally, right?
Originally, right. But even though they only developed Crash Bandicoot for the Sony console... yeah, we're almost there.
I can't go back to it.
No, you can't.
I have to move on.
Yes, you have to. Good luck. But
Son of a biscuit.
You thought he was gonna say that. Anyway, so
I say we had this conversation before. I really need to censor myself.
but he it wasn't always. I guess they always developed for Sony, but they never they weren't only a Sony studio. They were their own developers. And after the success of Crash 1,
Naughty Dog wanted the big bucks. Let's put it that way. And the biggest selling console at the time was PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
And whenever Crash sold...
It was new, because there was the Super Nintendo that was out around the same time.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo came out in 91.
Isn't that?
No, 91. And I think the PS1 came out before the 64. So you had that little window of Super Nintendo dying off. Ripperoo. Super Nintendo dying off, and then N64 getting its legs underground.
But after the success of Crash 1, they kind of noticed that maybe they got something here. So,
Jason Rubin and Andy Gavin were the original guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jason and Andy met up with Sony. I think they went out to dinner or something. Whenever Jason was telling the story. So they went out to dinner, and their friend from Game Informer was there, and they pretty much just said, would you consider, letting us buy you out and working for us? And they were not, they were kind of skeptical on it at first, but then they really thought about it, and the way he put it was that they did it because so far Sony treated them perfectly fine, and at the time, they were allowed to have their creative rights because, Sony had no say-so, and that was their only thing that they said was, we'll do it if we have our
make a game
rights.
We want.
Right. And when they signed the contract, they had to have a game out every year. So that's
Which
why...
is insane.
Right. So that's why you see Crash 1 was 1996, then 2, 1997.
Which, this is a little off topic, but there's only a year between this game and Crash Bandicoot 2, and granted, this game isn't terrible looking.
No, it's not. It's good. It's beautiful for its time.
Yeah,
at least,
but Crash Bandicoot 2 in a year, granted they
it's crazy.
got a bigger team to make the games. It's crazy how much better they can do in 1 year alone.
Definitely. Another side fact. I don't know if you knew this. A little fun fact. I'm sorry. So Mark Cerny, he's a pretty big name in PlayStation.
The guy who wore the Crash Bandicoot shirt on stage?
No,
that's the guy I know.
That's Andrew House.
Okay.
But Mark Cerny, he's a really big developer. He's also one of the engineers of the PlayStation 4. He helped, build that thing. But he was on the original Naughty Dog team, and I think it was Crash 2 and on. He was on it. No, he was on with Crash 1. He was there from the beginning.
This game was made by 13 people, if I recall.
Yes.
If he's one of those original 13, all props to him. But once Sony saw how successful this game was, yeah, we can afford to give them money, no doubt.
But with Mark Cerny being on there and everything, he's a pretty big name. But I don't know if you we actually talked about this before. Knack was one of the PlayStation 4 launch titles.
It's Knack, baby.
Yeah, it's Knack, and that was Mark Cerny's game. And he said that he wanted to bring back platforming for the PlayStation 4, and he wanted to kind of do it Crash Bandicoot style. And the game's not too
same place.
Yeah, the game's not too far off, I guess, but it's not Crash.
I have actually played Knack. It's not a terrible game. I mean, you can find it at your local retailer for $8 because there's one of the launch titles, and being that they've made a lot of them. However, it's not a bad game. It's pretty fun. I got about 3/4 of the way through it, and then other things took my interest, I guess would be the best way to say it.
Yeah. Definitely not a bad game. I enjoyed it.
But going back to what you were saying about Mark Cerny, the fact that you wanted to bring back platforming is really important because, PlayStation was kind of built on platforming, whether it's Crash Bandicoot, Sonic, wow, Spyro, the Dragon. Who put out Spyro the Dragon? Insomniac?
It was Insomniac Games, yeah.
They still put out, what's it called? Ratchet and Clank games.
Ratchet and Clank, yup.
The last one was the one that was a reboot of the entire game series.
In which, congratulations to them, they're doing the new Spider-Man game.
Oh yeah, that looks really
awesome.
good.
Yeah, kudos to them. I can't wait to actually see what they do with that.
But honestly, PlayStation was built off of platforming, specifically 3D platforming. I mean, what wasn't if I recall, Tomb Raider PlayStation exclusive for a really
It was
long time?
yeah, it was first on PlayStation. Yeah.
I mean, technically, if you want to think about it, that's a platformer.
Yeah, it was a linear-based action game. Yeah.
So like, PlayStation kind of built its reputation of having the best platformers. I mean, like, it's hard to compete with Nintendo on platformers, but like on the other hand, it's like whenever you have Crash Bandicoot, you have Spyro the Dragon, you have Uncharted with Lara Croft, which, I mean, they're still making those games today. Yeah, that's Tomb Raider.
That's Tomb Raider. Yeah.
Sorry, Nathan Drake and Lara Croft, you know, in my opinion,
Meant to be.
not meant to be, but similar characters. But yeah, like PlayStation kind of used platforming as its backbone, and I think it's really important that they get. It's not important that they get back to it, but like
Recognize it.
recognize
at
that,
least,
like, hey, this is where
I
we
agree.
started. This is what made us money.
With Crash coming back and everything, yeah, it's it makes me. I've been going back and playing these games a little bit more often than I used to, and at the end of Crash Team Racing, if you beat it with 101%, you get that scrapbook.
Yeah.
That gives you pretty much like a briefing of like the Naughty Dog history and everything.
For a long time, that was the extent of my Naughty Dog history.
Yeah.
Was the because I'm a lazy gamer, I put in the cheat codes to whenever those were a thing, which is insane to still think about that. We literally would go to Scholastic book fairs and buy books of cheat codes.
Yeah, I remember that.
But,
Was it Game Shark?
I don't know what they were actually called. All I know is they were cheat code books. And but regardless, like, put that in, it gives you like a brief history of Naughty Dog, and like, as somebody who is a fan of history, that's really interesting, especially of. And I keep on. This is me. You can blame all this gameplay for me right now. But it gives you. Okay. It gives you a brief history of pretty much what ended up being one of my favorite developers of my childhood, and still one of my favorite developers to this day. Granted, my brother is a few years younger than me. He was the big Uncharted guy. He was the big Last of Us guy. I watched him play those. They both look like really interesting, intense games, and I think Naughty Dog really is finding their stride in the action-adventure cinematic game, and I think that's really important to Naughty Dog itself, because it's building off of that action-adventure game now. They're not really relying on Crash Bandicoot anymore, because whenever Jak and Daxter came out, oh my goodness. Naughty Dog, the same developers of Crash Bandicoot. And Jak and Daxter, yeah, they're great games. I've played those. But a lot of the only reason they were able to be made is because of Crash Bandicoot, when it comes down to it.
And I do agree. If I'm not mistaken, I think you told me this a while back, that Insomnia, it didn't, like, after Crash was sold, I think because after Crash Team Racing, Naughty Dog sold the rights to Crash to Universal.
Yeah.
And that's whenever they moved on to Jak and Daxter. But if I'm not mistaken, didn't they give the Crash engine to Insomniac?
Yeah, actually, I don't know if it was necessarily the Crash engine, but I know I've
Same gameplay elements or something like that.
yeah,
I don't remember.
it's you know what it was? It was the Jak and Daxter engine
Oh, is it Jak
that
and
Ratchet and
Daxter?
Clank used,
Okay.
because at the end of every single one of the original Ratchet and Clank 1, Ratchet and Clank Going Commando, whatever, because they all have funny names. They always had at the end of the thing, "Thank you, Naughty Dog, for whatever engine it was called." And I thought that was Naughty Dog made that engine, and now another company that they're friends with, I guess you could say, is using it, and they're thanking them. And Naughty Dog was really important to the gaming industry in the 90s because is a small developer whenever they picked up a game like Crash Bandicoot, but then they became this giant, and that's what really the video gaming industry needs. They need these developers, like even Yacht Club, I think, makes Shovel Knight.
Yeah, Yacht Club. Yeah, you're right.
One of the only, or two of the current probably 6 games out for the Switch are Shovel Knight games. You know, and that's them getting their name out there and recognition. And you see other channels on YouTube playing Shovel Knight, and you see everybody knows about Shovel Knight now. An 8-bit throwback. So Naughty Dog kind of did that with Crash Bandicoot. They kind of used it as a launching platform to make themselves this huge gaming giant. Whenever you start with an orange marsupial who got his name after spinning through boxes.
Alright guys, that's going to do it for episode 3. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe. It would really help me out. So I will see you guys in the next one.